Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys our next Draft League Twitter discussion. Today, we're going to be asking you guys which new Paldea Dex Pokemon you have been trying to try, but haven't gotten the opportunity to. For myself personally, it's Valiant and Skeledirge. We'll kind of talk about them as they show up on this list, which they definitely do. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed today's Twitter discussion, be sure to drop a like on the video as well as subscribe to the channel. Sorry, we're on our way to 2,000 subs, and I would really appreciate it a ton if you help us out along that journey. And yeah, drop in the comments below which Paldea Dex Pokemon you want to try the most. There's a ton of really fun mons. I think that's the most exciting part of a new generation, obviously, when we're playing in the draft format and things like that. So I can think of at least 10 mons off the top of my head that I'm like, wow, I really want to try that. One that I didn't put here is Iron Jugulis. I really want to try Jugulis. I did actually recently draft in a Wi-Fi league, so that'll be fun. Y'all will see that soon. But I want to try Terra Iron Jugulis in particular. I think the mon's super slept on. Really, really fun. But yeah. All right, with that being said, we can go ahead and jump on into it. First up, we have Thriller here saying, okay, I only got to use in the Ubers format a bit, so I don't count it, but Palafin. The boy hits so hard. Fire Design is just a great Pokemon, but I also want to use Annihilape. Never got the chance to yet, but I hope with it I can have some major fun with it and make people rage. Two awesome Pokemon, obviously, right? Very, very high tier, top tier Pokemon. Palafin is a Pokemon that I've very much so contemplated drafting a few times. I'm a little bit nervous on it in the draft setting, especially because I feel like it really like forces you to position like perfectly, and finding that opportunity to get it in while also not simultaneously losing momentum when you immediately have to switch out is a little bit tough in my opinion. So that's kind of why I strayed away from it and went for the more herder easy picks. Annihilape is another one I really want to try with Terra. I had it last BBR season. It was incredible even without Terra, but I think in a Terra setting, when it can change its typing, be as bulky as it is, bulk up, Drain Punch, Rage Fist, everything, it is just absolutely astronomically good. It is such a good Pokemon, and I really want to try it in that setting where it's like at its peak potential, because I didn't really get to do that because I Terra'd Moon. Honestly, hindsight, if I had to go back, I would probably Terra Annihilape and go regular Moon opposed to what I had. I think it was just new toy syndrome. I wanted to use my new favorite mon here for sure, but yeah. Next up, we have Wine Shaman here saying Ting-Lu and Skeledirge for sure. So Ting-Lu is a Pokemon I actually have been using for about the last month or so in a National Dex Showdown League that I might upload a video for, and I've really enjoyed it. It is a ridiculously bulky Pokemon. I remember I was playing an Urshifu Single Strike one of the games, and I was looking at calcs for it while building, and it needed to be Adamant Choice Band to secure a KO on a Fizz-Def Ting-Lu with close combat. Otherwise, it just couldn't kill it, which is, again, I understand, like, oh, it dies to close combat. Who would have thought? But, like, the fact that it can live that move unless it is Adamant Choice Band Urshifu Single Strike is insane. I have actually personally never seen that Pokemon get O-code. Never. It just has never happened for me. It's an incredible spike setter. It really breaks down fat teams too with like Ruination and Taunt. Lefty's Protect is incredible. You whirlwind things around. You can be a rocker too. Really reliable hazard mon. I think it's really good with the right offensive pieces in the back to kind of exploit and take advantage of all the hazards, and you know, residual and chip damage is going to force with Ruination plus spikes and things like that. So incredible Pokemon. Big fan of Ting-Lu. And I think like Choice Band sets are really cool. Just give him knockoff, so he'll be the best ground in the format. Next up, oh, and Skeledirge. I didn't even talk about Skeledirge. This is one of my options. I think this Pokemon with Terra becomes an absolute monster. I think it's kind of mid without Terra, to be completely honest, just because that Fire Ghost typing seems a little bit exploitable in its weaknesses, and, you know, the way Skeledirge's type, you know, is set up, and Fire Ghost being kind of weak to a lot of different things, especially a lot of special attacks, which is its weaker side. But I think if you can, like, Terra Fairy it, Terra Water it, I've even seen Terra Dragon Skeledirge pop off because it just loses, like, every weakness ever. It can be an absolute monster, and it really can steamroll through some teams that don't have the proper pieces to beat it with just Torch Song plus Shadow Ball, honestly, and then you go, like, Willow Slack Off, or maybe you go Earth Power, or you go Terra Blast if, you know, you are different Terra typing, like Terra Fairy with Terra Blast, you know, I guess all three of your stabs and slack off can just steamroll through teams as you just continuously compound Torch Song after Torch Song after Torch Song. Over the course of the game, Pokemon just won't deal with it. Like, it just won't happen. So I definitely want to try out Dirge myself. That's one of the ones I put as like my top end. Next up, we have Endless Gadgets here saying Terra Baxcalibur looks so much fun. I can't wait to get the chance to try it eventually. Yes, J-Bear right below just recently drafted it, and it is a menace, let me tell you. I've played a lot of Terra Baxcalibur in the last couple of months, and it is so unbelievably hard to deal with, whether it be like Terra Dragon, Glaive Rush, just to nuke through everything, because there's so little fairies in the format right now. It's basically a free KO when it comes in, or Terra Fire, Terra Steel, Terra Electric, Terra Water to find more setup opportunities, potentially. Like, there's so many different things that it can do and Terra into to gain either incredible type coverage. I've even seen Terra Ground with Earthquake just rocking teams, because Ground Stab plus Dragon Stab plus Ice Stab is quite literally perfect. It gets super out of hand super fast. I think Swords Dance sets are super slept on right now too, like Swords Dance, Terra boosted Glaive Rushes, and then having the priority in Ice Shard as well. You can even go Terra Ice in some matchups if it, does show like the opportunity does arise and things like that. So I definitely think Terra Bax is cool. It's hard for me, I haven't drafted it yet because, like, while I recognize it's really, really good, I really like drafting that top 10 Pokemon and just giving it a Terra. So I think as the format kind of progresses and we see more Terra bans and things like that, which has kind of been the trend recently, at least in the Showdown scene, then you'll see mons like Terra Baxcalibur kind of set themselves apart as like a top 5 Terramon, just because of, the value they offer and the ability to Terra and things like that. Next up, we have Jaber saying, great Tuskington. Lando Tusk, my boy. Incredible Pokemon. Obviously, we just drafted in the BBR, which hasn't really started yet, but we had it in APA Classic season, whatever it was, season 21, the season that we won, that we uploaded the movie of, and I had it with plus Dragapult, which is, most people aren't really going to get that core or that opportunity, but first League of the Gen, always, some weird stuff flies by. But I loved Great Tusk. There is literally no such thing as a bad Great Tusk matchup. And I think that is like the gold standard you should hold like a top tier Pokemon to. If I can bring this Pokemon to every game, no matter what, it's incredible. And this is Pokemon's the epitome of that. Whether it be like physically defensive sets with like Rocky Helmet or Leftovers and Body Press, whether it be bulk up sets, Choice Scarf, Heavy Duty Boots, Booster Energy, so many different things. Choice Band, even just like throwing off ridiculously strong headlong rushes in close combats. Incredible coverage. I made a short about why Great Tusk is so good. You should check that out, and you should check out our BBR draft analysis where we did recently just draft Great Tusk. So I'm super excited to use it again, and I see what Jaber wants to use it in general. Amazing Pokemon. It is like a quintessential draft league Pokemon too. It does so well. It's great rocker too. One of the few spinners it knocks. Oh my, amazing Pokemon. Incredible. Next up, we have Quincy here saying Roaring Moon, Ting-Lu, and Skeledirge. We talked about the back two. We can talk about Roaring Moon as it's a Pokemon I have experience with. Now, this is going to sound sacrilegious because it's quite literally my favorite Pokemon from the generation, as it's another Ments, and I love me some Ments. But it was a little bit underwhelming for me. Now, maybe it's because of the Terra rules that we had. Maybe it's because I didn't do Terra Flying as my secondary typing, or I didn't have another typing, so I could only do Dark, and I couldn't do like a Terra Flying on top of that for like Booster Energy Acro sets, which definitely was pretty tough in a lot of matchups. But I feel like Moon is still very good. It just plays a little bit differently than I expected, right? I think Moon is best in like a facilitating role and clicking U-turn, being Choice Band or Choice Scarf, or even like, U-turn sets with like a Booster Energy or Heavy Duty Boots or something like that. U-turning, forcing in, X Fairy type or X Dark or Fighting type or whatever it may be, and then getting into your Iron Moth in the back. Actually, in particular, Darkrai, who's a really, really solid Showdown player, he uploaded a Smog Tour run where he had Terra Iron Moth plus Roaring Moon, and Roaring Moon facilitated that thing perfectly the entire tour, and it was really cool to watch. It would always just U-turn in, Moth would come in and basically pick one up, especially because it was free Terra Moth. So I definitely think that Roaring Moon is a really cool facilitator, and it's really strong on its own, and it has those matchups where it can just win, especially with like the very limited fairies, and there are matchups where like Choice Band will just kill everything too, and I think it just really struggles in that DD role, where I think like Banded sets are really solid, and great momentum grabber, and great facilitator of other offense, basically, is kind of how I see Roaring Moon. As much as I would love for him to be like the best mod in the format, he's not. Next up, we have Dashing Sceptile saying, I know it's not in the game yet, but I want to try Terra Chesnaught once home is released. Interesting. Terra Chesnaught with Iron Defense, Body Press, or Offensive Close Combat set. This one's going to be a menace in Wi-Fi, I feel. Now, I don't know if I would ever waste like a Terra Captain on Chesnaught, but in general, as a Pokemon, it is very, very good. Whether it be like those physically defensive sets, I do think that getting body press is super, super cool for it. Especially as that strong fighting stab on top of that really, really strong defense stat. On top of Spiky Shield and Leech Seed, as well as spikes too. It's a really, really solid spike setter. You don't have a lot of grasses that set up spikes, which is cool because grasses typically beat a lot of rapid spinners. Now, not a lot of defoggers are going to get beaten by Mr. Chesnaught, but there's also not a lot of defog in the game in general. So I think it's a very solid spiker. It leeches up, spiky shields, it can be bulk up as well, but I guess it gets iron defense now as well, which is really cool. I might have gotten that before, but never used it because body press wasn't a move for it. Or even like belly drum Salic berry sets and things like that, like throwing it back to the old A drive days. Excuse me. Throwing it back to the old A drive days and things like that, where you go Salic berry, belly drum, and drain punch up and win the game. I think that could be cool. Maybe that with Terra could be cool because you can find that free opportunity belly drum. I'm grabbing a free cool immunity or something of the sorts. Like, I don't know. I think that could be potentially pretty cool. Maybe if you only allow lower tier Terras. Excuse me. Or you get multiple typings or something like that. Or multiple captains or something like that. So, next up we have Incog saying Annihilape. We kind of talked about Annihilape a little bit earlier, but incredible Pokemon. I definitely want to use it a ton. Marcelo, same thing. He talks about Palafin. We might have talked about those in the same tweet from Thriller. So, very, very, very cool mon. Again, I'm a little bit iffy on how to position it. But I think that's as the kids say, a skill issue on my end. We'll see though. Then we have, is it Nanigans? I don't know. Art saying Revavroom because Poison Steel is one of the types I really anticipated. Plus Filter is my favorite ability. Shame a car can't pull an illegal U-turn, but at least you can parting shot. Revavroom's cool, right? And, like, I think it was super close to being good. It was super, super, super close to being good. But it is just missing out on a couple things in its move pool. Offensively, U-turn would have been awesome, but the moves that it doesn't get that make me the most mad are High Horsepower and Wild Charge. Wild Charge doesn't even need High Horsepower. Would have been incredible for it to hit steals. Right now it's kind of stuck with Bulldoze, which isn't very strong when it comes to like a shift gear sweeper. I think if it got High Horsepower and Wild Charge, it would actually be a really solid like low tier steel type sweeping threat, especially with Filter, finding more setup opportunities on anything that's not an Earthquake or whatever it may be. U-turn would have been incredible for it as well, as it's a car and U-turning is a thing that they do. But, you know, it's not the biggest steel in the world. It's a steel type that can't rock, though, which is a bit unfortunate and a bit tough in a draft league setting. But it grabs good momentum and can be a decent pivot in some instances. So it's definitely not terrible. I know Amel used it really well in that APA Classic season we were talking about. I remember he swept John with it when John had a Corviknight. He swept it with Shift Gear when he had a Corviknight, and it set up on the Corviknight. Just Amel things, you know? Next up, we have Spencer here saying, I've been eyeing Grafai's abilities in move pool since SV leaked. Now, I think it's Aquarius that is like a massive Grafai stan and thinks it's the absolute truth. And I definitely think he's a funny little guy. He's a bit frail for my liking. Personally, just a little bit frail for my liking personally, but he can do some cool things, some prankster shenanigans. Grounded Poison, he's one of the very few normal types in the decks too, so you get a ghost immunity out of it, and it can spam knockoff. Unburden's cool, prankster's cool, so it has some good low tier value as long as it's priced aptly. It's definitely a pretty solid Pokemon. Next up here, we have Caden saying Glimmora seems like a fun mon to draft. The ability makes it very easy to throw in any team, and the utility while also getting rocks and removal is great, but also has a really good special attack stat with a usable move pool. It also gets Acid Spray, which is a move I'd love. I'm, again, going back to that APA Class season, y'all need to watch that movie, because it was pretty nasty. Like the team we had and the run we had, but I had Glimmora on that team, plus Dragapult and Great Tusk, which love the hazard support, right? And Glimmora is amazing at getting up spikes and rocks and T-spikes and keeping away hazards if you need so, and all this stuff, right? Incredible at it, and that's what you typically see it do in the OU ladder. But I think people really, really underestimate how dang good this thing is offensively. 130 special attack with access to Earth Power. That's stronger than Nihilego with better coverage. It's obviously slower, but offensively it's incredible between Power Gem, Sludge Wave, Earth Power, as well as Dazzling Gleam, Energy Ball. All this great coverage, and really not a lot of switch-ins, to be completely honest. You catch that Steel type with an Earth Power, is getting to it KO'd, and then nothing else switches into it. I remember in one of those games that season, I led a Life Orb Modest Glimmora against like a Corviknight, Amoonguss, Quagsire team, and I think I picked like 2 and 3/4 mon on lead. And I think I set up 1 spike in the meantime too. Like it's a really, really good Pokemon. It can also rock polish sweep, which is a really cool aspect of it. And corrosion is a really cool aspect too. I remember played the same team in finals, and I brought a toxic and corrosion Glimmora to toxic the Glimmora and the Amoonguss and things like that. So really, really incredible Pokemon in draft. I think it's actually much better in draft than it is in Smog, and it's great in Smog too. So like, I think it's a really, really good mon. Love Glimmora. Love Glimmora. Next up, we have Lucian, I think it's Lucan, saying that their favorite Pokemon this gen is Lokix, but Bellibolt looks fun as hell. Also, Toad's cool. Specifically cool. Sounds fun, but I have that on a draft right now, so I can't. So not cruel? Cool. The little guy with only the 2 feet instead of the 17 feet? I will take your word that he's a cool guy. I don't know if I can draft the cool guy Toadstool, personally. Toadstool looks really fun. It looks like a really solid Pokemon that I think people are sleeping on. But Lokix is definitely a really strong breaker. It's a bit tough to fit on teams, especially as your dark type. But if you can, like those Tinted Lens first impressions and U-turns and Dark Stab, and then Axe Kick is really solid fighting coverage to hit those steel types outside of just being Tinted Lens and strong. Is really, really cool. You obviously have Sucker Punch as well, so dual priority is always a good thing as well. So I like Lokix a lot. And then Bellibolt, I think Bellibolt with Terra could be kind of cool. It has water coverage as well and slack off, so you can get pretty obnoxious there. Maybe like a Terra Water Bellibolt actually could be really, really cool. I think Terra Water Bellibolt, if like you have like a, you know, lower tier captain, could be pretty fun. But he is a Bellibolt. He's also absolutely adorable. One of the cutest Pokemon of all time. Next up here, we have David saying Chien-Pao. The fact that it can just nuke physical walls. It's not just physical, it nukes the game. That mon is insane. I talked about it a lot on stream when we were doing the BBRD League watch through a couple days ago, but I really think that, like, Chien-Pao, if you're not banning Terra on it, it should probably be banned. I think, like, that Pokemon with Terra, I mean, even without Terra in this dex, it just 2-hit KOs every single Pokemon in the game. And then you give it Terra, and those just turn into Okos. Like, there's just not anything that switches into this Pokemon. As someone who has used it multiple times, used it in my Smog Tour run, it is just astronomical how strong this Pokemon is and how well it breaks the dual priority. I think priority is really important in this metagame right now in general, with how offensive it is and all the Terra shenanigans and all the sweepers and all that stuff. Chien-Pao is like the best mon to do it. Like, I love me some Mega Weavile. He's broken. He's absolutely broken. Next up, we have Fabio saying there are at least too many, but I'd love to try Chien-Pao, Gholdengo, and Ting-Lu. We just talked about Pao, talked about Lu. Gholdengo is a mon I really want to try, but whenever I feel like I'm okay with drafting him, he's already gone. In the sense that, like, I think I would waste like a round 3 pick on Gholdengo. He's not a mon that I would really, maybe round 2 depending on where I'm at, but I see a lot of times in a lot of leagues right now, maybe early on, and maybe it's just Wi-Fi, I've been seeing Gholdengo go like round 1, and I think it's much better in like a Smog setting than it is in a draft setting, whereas like Gholdengo isn't really a Pokemon you build around. It's an incredible support piece for like a top tier Pokemon that loves hazards on the field, whether you need like a status absorber or its incredible ghost and steel defensive typing, as well as offensively, like that plus its fighting coverage and focus blast is awesome. Plus recover, plus nasty plot, plus T-Bolt, great scarf, great specs, like really, really good Pokemon overall. But whenever I want to try it, it's gone in early round 2, late round 1 or something like that. And I'm not personally willing to draft it that early, because I don't think it's that good, but I do really want to try it, and I'm sure I will at one point. But yeah. Next up, we have Gentleman Thomas here saying, I wasn't interested in it at first, but then after seeing multiple people use it, Iron Hands has really become a mon high on my list wanted to use. Yes, I really want to try Iron Hands. I think that mon is so unbelievably cracked. I think it is so good. It is so unbelievably bulky on the Fizz Def side, and then you give it an AV, and it's another Pokemon like Ting-Lu that just, nothing kills it. If you have a way of keeping it healthy, like Solid Wish, like I think like Scream Tail plus Iron Hands would be really, really cool and a lot of fun to use. It looks incredible. I think it's also a great Terra Captain with Swords Dance, whether it be like Terra Flying, Terra Grass, something like kind of mitigate some weaknesses and, you know, be a big nuisance there. I think it could be a really solid Pokemon. Even like Belly Drum sets for some reason, or like Choice Band could be really, really awesome. I wish it got bulk up. It does not, unfortunately, but it does get Iron Defense, and Iron Defense with Body Press is also a really, really scary option for big Iron Hands there. So great catch-all physical check to so many things too. And having that Pokemon that guaranteed lose 1 of anything in such like an offensive meta like this is always really, really valuable. So definitely agree. Lars has the same idea. He says Iron Hands and Kingambit, though, are on my list 100%. So much Bolt and great damage output. Would love to use them. Give my boy Kingambit knockoff, and he is the best steel type in the format, damn near. Now, Kingambit was another Pokemon on that classic team, that AP classic team that I've been talking about all night. But it was a Pokemon I actually, when I drafted it, I wasn't super excited about. I was kind of meh on it, you know? I didn't think it was going to be as good as a lot of people were giving it hype for. It was really strong and incredibly bulky, but I looked and it was so slow. And it's 4 times weakness fighting. I thought it was going to be really, really exploitable in a generation with so many good offensive fighting types. So many good offensive fightings. But then I used it, and I was proven wrong, whether it be with Resist Berry and AV. I think AV Gambit is incredible. A Rocks 3 attack set, Swords Dance sets. I even brought Life Orb once, I think. I don't know. Choice Band is a really cool option as well. It's an incredible Pokemon. It's another Pokemon that just simply doesn't die to one hit and always does a ton of damage. 2 incredible abilities in Supreme Overlord and Defiant. Obviously strong priority to make up for your bad speeds here. And then with Terra, it can also be really obnoxious, kind of shedding that 4 times weakness and grabbing a different kind of typing. That's just like Terra Steel, but typically you'll see like Terra Fairy on it or something like that. So really, really good Pokemon. I was very much so pleasantly surprised by Kingambit, and I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Next up, we have Obo here saying Iron Valiant and Skeledirge. He's great minds think alike. Both look like so much fun. For a lower tier, probably Kilowattrel. So I'm talking about Valiant because that was my first pick too, outside of Skeledirge, and I really want to try Valiant. I used it in one game for a tour at the beginning of the gen, and it was amazing. I used it in a Nat Dex game, so it couldn't even Terra, but it was so unbelievably strong. I think it is a Pokemon that's like right up my alley in the sense that it can be physical, it can be special, it can be mixed, it can boost speed, attack, or special attack with a booster energy. You can Calm Mind, it can Sword Dance, it can be Band, it can be Specs, it can be Scarf. If you can run all 3 choice items viably, you're a good Pokemon in my mind. Like, it really, I think it rewards solid building, and it really, really rewards it and has a really high skill ceiling in that sense. Like, if you can pretty much always find a Valiant set that absolutely just demolishes. My week 1 of BBR, I played Valiant, and there was like 3 very good sets against me, I think, but there was one set in particular I was, wow, if this comes, I might just lose, and there's nothing I could do about it. Like, there's some scary stuff, and we'll talk about in that video when it goes up on Sunday, obviously. And then Kilowattrel is definitely an interesting one. Electric plus Flying is obviously a tried and true incredible competitive typing, whether it be with Zapdos or the Thundies or whatever it may be. It gets access to U-Turn. It's pretty solid under the rain as well. So, and it gets an immunity and Volt Absorb. So, again, not a bad Pokemon at all. Not a bad Pokemon at all. And a solid speed tier and a very slow, or a very, weird dex speed tier wise. Next up, we have Pano here saying Iron Leaves, the new Paradox Pokemon from the future. Would love to hear your thoughts on good course to pair with it. Just super impressive coverage that I think would be fun to play. Leaves is definitely a really cool one. I think a good offensive dark and fighting, so getting that fighting dark psychic core is really solid. I think tearing your Iron Leaves is kind of a requirement. Terra Fighting looks really, really solid with Sword Stance, Close Combat, and then dual stabs. But also Terra Electric looks really strong. If you get it with terrain or something of the sorts, you can get really, really powerful and out of hand. It can boost speed as well as its attack, so I think that's a really cool aspect of it. And I think with Leaves, it's kind of just drafting and playing in a way that facilitates you getting in and getting a free setup turn, because it's not really all that threatening until it's in that end game Swords Dance or Wind scenario, unlike something like Walking Wake, which that's another one I really want to try too, is Walking Wake. So yeah. Next up, we have Wagon Fruit here saying Armarouge looks like mini Victini, and weak armor is so cool. I agree. So Victini is my favorite draft league Pokemon of all time to use. It is by far my kill leader. I think I have it at almost 100 kills all time for me, and I absolutely love it. Mostly because of that incredible offensive typing. Obviously, Victini has more bulk, more coverage, more speed, all that stuff. But Armarouge is strong, and I feel for a more budget, Victini, it can be cool. Weak armor can set up more sweeps, I think, than Victini can. So Calm Mind plus weak armor, it gets Endure too to guaranteed live physical hits, and then throwing off armor cannons and psychics, and I think it gets Aura Sphere or Focus Blast, and I think Energy Ball as well. It gets really, really solid coverage. Armarouge looks really fun. I think Amel has it this season in BBR. It'll be really cool to see. Next up, we have some repeats. We have Addison here, Aquarius, saying Annihilape, which is definitely one we've talked about a bunch. I think a lot of people want to try Annihilape, which definitely makes sense. Del saying Baxcalibur, which we've seen as well. Again, one that looks really fun with Terra and things of the sorts. And then we have Hisuian Samurott from Gohan here. And this is another Pokemon I really want to play, or use. I've played it a couple times and I've really slept on it. I've played like Scarf's Useless Edge sets. And the fact that it can just be fast and everything, have a sharpness boosted, Ceaseless Edge, hit with an attack that doesn't have any immunities, and get up spikes in the process of doing it is so unbelievably obnoxious to try and play around. It is so unbelievably obnoxious. So I think that this is a really cool Pokemon. It also can Swords Dance and Aqua Jet, which is really cool. This plus Razor Shell and Sharpness too. It's a really strong Pokemon, really strong breaker that forces its own progress. Even if you go into your Dark Resist, your Fairy type, yeah, you're switching in and taking my hit, but I'm getting a spike when you switch in, as well as doing damage and forcing a little bit of chip, scouting item, maybe forcing recovery, whatever it might be. So cool Pokemon for sure. I think it's great. Next up, we have Sandan here. With another repeat. I think we just have a bunch of repeats here at the bottom end. Saying Iron Hands and Great Tusk. Phenomenal Pokemon. Absolutely phenomenal Pokemon. And as well as Great Tusk. And we have Brad Frost saying Kingambit. It's at the top of my list. We just talked about him. He's the GOAT. We have 2 Lokix in a row. So that's 3 Lokix in one video. I want to click the button. There's a lot of the buttons. U-turn is the Draft League player button, but it also gets first impression, which I'm assuming he's talking about. Like Choice Band first impression is a demon on that Pokemon. Same thing. Lokix team for the ladder. I want to use it in draft. That's totally fair. And Skeledirge, at least for draft, it's on my OU team. Skeledirge definitely looks fun. It's definitely on my list, but yeah, that is going to be kind of your guys' or the Pokemon you guys want to try and draft right now. Obviously, there's way more. I mentioned I would love to try Terra Iron Jugelis. I think that one's super slept on. I think Terra Iron Thorns would be a lot of fun too. So let me know in the comments if there's any other Pokemon you would like to try and why. Let me know if you guys have any other Twitter questions. I'm running dry on them, so if you have any idea for cool Twitter questions, let me know. Join the Discord in the description below. And yeah, so if you enjoyed, or like if you enjoyed, sub if you do. I'll see you in the next one. Later.